The French Connection came out of, more than any other film I made, the experience I had with documentaries. And I was able to apply a documentary technique to fictional cinema. That's what the French Connection did. It looked in many ways like a documentary, like I was just following these cops around and not knowing what they were going to do. But that came from the fact that I had only done documentaries on film prior to that. I had also done live television. I directed about 2,000 live television programs in 8 years. This was a great way to learn, because really what directing is about is communicating. And however you learn to communicate is preparation for directing. First you have to communicate with the script, with the story. You have to try and understand it, and in effect enter a dialogue with the script. Then you must communicate with the cast and the crew to not only get your ideas across, but to elicit ideas from them that will make their work better. But then ultimately you're trying to communicate with an audience. And communication requires one important thing, and that's common sense. You know? Communication is about common sense, to treat everybody in the same way, in a respectful way, to respect the audience, but not to cater to them, but to respect the audience's intelligence. I've always tried to do that in my own limited way, to respect the intelligence of the audience. The documentary technique is a shorthand for not using a lot of heavy equipment to make a film. You know, what's interesting to me is when I started making film in America, you had to have a 10-ton truck to carry all the equipment around, and a lot of lighting and things that were completely unnecessary because the film was fast enough, you know, to be exposed without a lot of light, without a lot of equipment. But they were using all this equipment and lighting because they kept a lot of people working, which is admirable, but it wasn't necessary. When I came along, it was possible to pick up a camera in your hand and to throw a sound recorder over your shoulder and go out and record a movie and photograph a movie, simply. And because this was the new technology when I came into the business, I naturally, gravitated toward that. Rather than, but I made a couple of films where they bought big blimp cameras and tons of lights, and it looked awful. And the documentary stuff, the handheld stuff, based on the Arriflex technology and Nagra, the tape recorder, changed the look of film, not me. It would not have been possible to do the kind of films I made, not because of the Paul Crump documentary, but because of the Nagra and the Arriflex. I'm sure that if Fritz Lang had a Nagra and an Arriflex, he would have used it, rather than the tons of equipment that it used to require to make a film. Now it takes less. Now you have digital video. You don't even need film. And I've seen some of these whole movies made on digital video. They look great. And you don't need film. You don't need, I mean, if you shoot film to this day, you don't know what's going to come back the next day from the laboratory. A load of darkness might come back. Or it could be overexposed, or the film, I've had all this stuff happen. The film torn on the printer, or torn in the projector, the negative. I've had more thousands and thousands of feet of film lost on films that I've made. So now you have digital video, and you see the result right there. You see what you have. Do you want to do it again? Do you need to do it again? Or is it okay? That's okay. Move on. This is good. This has already started to replace film. Film is something of the past. Now, it's true that the great works of cinema were done on 35 millimeter film. But that doesn't mean there won't be other great works done on digital with DVDs or even without anything in cyberspace. You know, it's now possible. They don't even need to put in a disc to play a movie. They can just play it from a satellite into millions of homes. What's wrong with that? Nothing. That was the most difficult film I've had to make, Sorcerer. But no, I didn't lose control on the set. That was Apocalypse Now, where my friend lost control on the set a lot of times. I kept a very firm control of the set. I always did small films. Every film I ever made was small. Sorcerer is very intimate. It's an intimate story. There's not a lot of extras in Sorcerer. There's not a lot of special effects. Everything that we did, we actually had to do live. There are 4 major characters and just a few minor characters. You know, it's a chamber film in many ways.